There are three reasons why I think self-storage has a bright future over the next 10 to 15, 20 years for the small investor. Let's talk about that in this episode. My name's Mark Helm, and I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Quick Start Academy. And the Quick Start Academy houses the Self-Storage Quick Start On-Demand Bootcamp, which is the premier training that I offer. And in this on-demand boot camp, it is a cloud-based training program that covers everything we cover in the live boot camps, has all of the material, and can take you from wherever you are now to putting your first self-storage facility into service. You even get some of the forms that we use in our business. So if you're interested in putting that first facility into service, I invite you to take a look at it. There'll be a link below. But I realize in that training and a lot of other training I do that I talk about why I think self-storage has a bright future, but I don't think I've done an episode on it. So let's talk about why. I think there's three main reasons, and each reason leads into the next reason. And reason number one is self-storage is still a very fragmented industry. Most people don't realize how big self-storage is. I've seen some varying numbers, but at the moment, the numbers I've seen are between 49,000 and 52,000 self-storage facilities in the U.S. Now, that's a lot. That's 1.9 billion square feet of self-storage, and it looks like it's a $39.5 billion industry per year. The national average is 5.9 square feet per capita. Now, the REITs of these 49,000, let's say, facilities in the U.S., they really only account for, the statistics I've seen on the low end are 18%, on the high end are 18 to 22% of all the self-storage facilities out there. Still, the last number I've seen is 62% of all those 49,000 self-storage facilities are owned by someone who just owns one. So in other words, this is still a very mom and pop industry. With all of the consolidation that's gone on so far, it's only accounting for, let's say, 20% of the self-storage space. The vast majority, the rest are smaller players. The vast majority are mom and pop players. So for all practical purposes, this is a mom and pop industry still. Now, the REITs are defining the space. The REITs are clearly stating what are the best practices in running a facility, what does the best facility look like. And a lot of these mom and pop players don't want to, have no desire, don't have the skill sets, and are unwilling to develop the skill sets to keep up with the fast-changing, fast-evolving industry that's being defined by these larger players. I mean, just think about it. How many facilities have you looked at where the owners had no price increases for a long time because he doesn't want to lose his customers? Or if that owner does have a price increase, they only increase the street rate and they won't increase existing customers because they don't want to lose their customers. Auctions are sporadic, if at all. Payment plans are put in place, and each month a larger and larger percentage of the potential cash flow goes from the bank into accounts receivable. Fees are waived. Each quarter, the amount of money in the 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, 120-day column keeps growing larger as a larger percentage of the potential income gets all gummed up in those past due. Weak marketing, if any marketing at all. Weak websites or no websites. Yes, it's still very much a mom and pop industry. I could keep going on, the list could go on, and you've seen them too. But for us, that's where the opportunity is. The opportunity is to buy the mom and pop facilities and bring them into this century. What I'm seeing more and more is that owners, their income keeps going down and down while the industry keeps getting better and better. They're hearing about it, reading about it, but their income's going down. Their expenses are going up. The amount of money that's going into the bank keeps going down. And one day they realize that they're behind. And they're either playing catch up or decide they don't want to play catch up and will market the property on promises of a 5 or 6 cap. Also, what drives many of these properties to the market has nothing to do with cap rates or interest rates, or even the amount of money they're making or not making. What drives many of these facilities to the market is a change, a retirement, an illness, a death. And these properties then hit the market. Over the next decade, what percentage of the 62% of the self-storage facilities are owned by somebody that just owns one? What percentage of those do you think are going to hit the market? 30, 50, 75? Doesn't matter. Any of those numbers is a great number that creates a lot of opportunity for the small investors like us. Very often these projects are not ones that the REITs are looking at. We'll go in and buy these things, expand them, bringing up to REIT standards, institutional standards, and boy, they're very interested at that point, believe me. We've ended up selling off way more properties than I wanted to, but they're willing to pay a lot at the moment. I get very excited when I see a mom and pop property hit the market, especially if there's expansion opportunity. So, the first reason I think there's a lot of potential for small investors like us is the state of the industry, how fragmented the industry is, and what a large percent are mom and pop, where, at least part of our business plan is to go in and take these products, bring them up to today's standards, and then either refinance them and keep them or sell them. The second reason, I think, for the small investor, we have a bright future over the next decade or so, is population growth. Now, population growth is the absolute main driver for self-storage demand. Population growth will fix most any mistakes that we developers or self-storage operators create as we either develop, build, or expand or run our self-storage facilities. Nothing is more local than self-storage. In other words, I literally can send a drone up, and if there's not a lot of mountains in the 3 to 5 mile area, with that drone, I can see my customer base. Not many businesses you can think of that you can see your customers with a drone. So population growth in that submarket is a key driver. And we're in for some population growth over the next decade or two in this country. It's estimated from the U.S. Census Bureau that population growth between 2020 and 2030 is going to be 23.2% in the U.S. From 2020's 56.1 million people to 73.1 million people in 2030. It does slow down, or is it's projected to slow down from the U.S. Census Bureau from 2030 to 2040 to 9.1% over that decade, going from 73.1 million to 80.8 million. That's still a lot of people. So let's just look at this population growth for a minute. So let's say that the average, it varies market to market, but let's be real conservative, 7.5 square feet per capita. That just the additional growth will create 182,500,000 more square feet of self-storage demand over this decade. Just the population growth alone. In our business strategy, we're trying to figure out where that population growth, the majority of it's going to be. And those are the markets that we're focused on. With all of the demographic information out there, you will know how fast your population's grown in your trade area or sub-market over the last decade and what it's anticipated to be this decade. Yes, population growth is the second reason why I'm very excited for us as small investors, because that's going to drive ongoing increased demand for this product over the next decade. And the third reason I'm excited is because of a larger percentage of the population beginning to use self-storage. So not only do we have population growth, but we have a larger percentage of the population accepting and beginning to use self-storage. Now, statistics can be a little fuzzy here, but let me share with you what I found. According to Sparefoot today, 10.6% of the population uses self-storage. From the best statistic I can see, this is up 2% from earlier in the decade, around 2010. So when the decade started, or when the 2000s started, it was 8% or less. Now it's 10.6%. So let's just say that we have, over this decade, another, let's say, 2% increase in the population beginning to use self-storage. And if you take from the U.S. Census Bureau the average population over this decade, that growth in population, that growth in the percentage of the population using self-storage alone will create an additional 64,600,000 square feet of self-storage. That's on top of the 185 million we talked about just a minute ago. No doubt about it. Increased demand for self-storage is going to be here over the upcoming decade or so. But I do have a few cautions. This industry is not like the 1980s. It's very sophisticated, and you're competing, or assume you're competing, because if you're not, you soon will be, competing with very sophisticated operators and developers. They're very sophisticated in how they find where they're going to build them, how they analyze whether they're going to do it or not, and how they run their facilities. Look, if you're not willing to grow, expand, learn different ways of running a facility, and be willing to be in like constant test mode, constant change mode, constant almost upgrade operational mode, my recommendation is get a third-party management company. Otherwise, you will soon become irrelevant, and all of the money and interest you're paying on your loan and all that will start to catch up with you. If you're not willing to up your game, get third-party management. The other caution I have is there are currently a lot of trade areas, market areas, and sub-markets that have a lot of supply in there. Now, again, population growth will take care of that over time, but there's no reason to be building just because you can control a site or get a good deal on something to be able to be bringing more self-storage square footage into an already oversupplied sub-market. Doesn't matter how cool looking your doors are, you're going to pay the price for that. Now, remember, we've talked about this. Oversupply is a temporary phenomena that's solved by population growth. And it is a natural part of the real estate cycle. It's not something that shouldn't be. It's just part of the real estate cycle. So know where you are in the cycle and keep your eye on the larger picture. And there are still plenty, I mean plenty, of opportunities in trade areas, market areas that need more self-storage or need what's there to be run better. Now, these are the three reasons why I see a bright future for small investors like us in self-storage over the next decade. Our job is to carve out our niche, our place in the self-storage space, plant a flag, and begin to develop our business there. What will it be for you? In the boot camp, we spend a lot of time thinking and talking and strategizing about where in the industry is your niche. And a lot depends on your goals and why you're getting into business. But just know that you're getting in or are growing in an industry that I think, for the three reasons we've talked about, it has a bright future for the small investor like us. So thank you very much. I look forward to being with you next week. My name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, creator of the Storage World Analyzer. That's what we use, or one of the tools we use as we analyze potential self-storage opportunities. You can find out more at storageworldanalyzer.com, creatingwealththroughselfstorage.com. Thank you very much, and I look forward to being with you next week.